Hi, guys. So, here we're going to have a little discussion about the new brokerage law and how the brokerage law will manage and regulate the real estate industry. This law was passed September 8, 22, and then it had an addendum to clarify some points in November 11, 2022. Myself and Ghislaine already took some of the courses required. Well, so far it's one course and a lot of paperwork, of course. So we are in transmite. So we are in process of obtaining our license. The first people that had to obtain the license were the brokerage houses. So like Keller Williams, or Remax, Century 21, or any independent person. Like for example, we could register independently, but we could not be working within Keller Williams as a broker. Okay, so we can work with Keller Williams as an agent, and there's one specific broker at Keller Williams that registered themselves as the broker that manages all its agents, which is very similar to the U.S. structure. So our broker is Roberto Serrano. He will be managing all the agents and reviewing and signing all the contracts. It will be the same for Remax, will be the same for Discover, and any of the other brokerage, large brokerage, or even small brokerage. So this law came about to replace another law that had been on the books for quite a bit, but it was never truly enacted and provided the legs that it was required. Here, in this new law of 1129, this law will basically provide, let me just look at it for a second. Yeah, provide all the legs necessary through MIFIC. MIFIC is the organization of Ministry of Industry and Business, let me call it that way. And they have two departments. They have the international department and the domestic department. So through the domestic department, they have established a department of real estate. In that department, they have currently 4 people working that will basically manage and have the brokers provide all the documents necessary for the brokerage house as well as for each and every agent. So, for example, myself and anybody else that's an agent, especially expats, we have to provide, number one, our cedula, which is our residency document that shows that we are allowed to work. If you don't have a cedula with a work designation, you can no longer act in any capacity of real estate. So some of us had to change that category because before, if we owned a company, we could work in that company, but it was clarified in this new document for September that you literally have to have a document in your cedula that states that you are able to work. So Ghislaine and I have that. So that was the first thing. The second thing is you have to show that you have a high school, university, or some type of other title that shows that you know about real estate. So, for example, I have a master's degree, so with that I had sufficient background, which is kind of weird, to be in the business. But then I also have a lot of other educational experience through the U.S. that I am presenting to MIFIC to show that I have the necessary qualifications. So Ghislaine is doing that the same with her high school degree and all the other work educational certificates that she has obtained. Of course, being a part of the expat community, one of the problems we will have is that we must also certify apostille every document, and that is a bummer and very expensive. So just to do my university degree, I paid $600 to get it apostilled in the US and then translated and then again certified here by a notary that it was all up to date, etc. So going through the process itself is expensive. But that's okay. I mean, you are in a business and that's the requirements. And so you have to fulfill the requirements. So those are two. Then you have to do a police record, a record from the alcaldía, and several others to get documents to show that you have no bad debt outstanding, that you are no police record, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so we have provided all that already, and now we had to take a test. I took my test last Friday, and now I'm waiting to hear the outcome. And it's tricky. I mean, being an expat and linguistic, it's always tricky to take a language that's not in your mother tongue. So Ghislaine took it before I did, and I just recently took mine, and now we just have to wait. As soon as we are approved in that phase, that we took the necessary test, then our broker, Keller Williams, can then obtain all our documents and then take a batch of all the agents to Mythic with the appropriate payments. So every agent will be spending a minimum just to get the cedula $150 US. A broker will be spending approximately $400 to $500. Again, we all know that this is a good business and industry to be in. And so you won't hear from, at least not from me and Ghislaine, that, oh my God, it's costly. We also have to prove that we are registered with the DGI, which we are, that we're paying taxes, which we are, which you have to provide your RUC. So all that we have taken care of, and thank God we have been doing that for several years. So we have been paying taxes as required, which I think is, if there's a tax to be paid and it's required, better pay it versus standing out. They're going to catch you sooner or later. So that is that. Then they were going to have penalties. The penalties are what they call small penalties and heavy penalties, or penalties for abusing the requirements of the law. So what does that all mean, Paul? Well, what it means is, for example, the law was enacted in September. MIFIC is going to really start pushing all the agents to get their required license, and those that do not will then start getting fines. The first fine is not going to be that bad. It's going to be around $100. Well, it's really 100 Central American dollars, which is slightly different than the American dollar by a few Cordobas, okay? So they give you a document that says where the Central American dollar is, and that's what you got to pay. So they have several categories, but the biggest category that I think people need to watch for is that category that is regulating us as agents. We will be having to show our carnet or our ID to anybody that we interact with. So I'll be carrying that along. That's not a big deal. Some people don't like that. Again, it's part of the requirement. Same thing in the US, so you're going to have to do it. Now, what happens if you don't do it and somebody, let's say XYZ, says that you didn't do it? We'll also be posting it all in our office. So if we don't have it on ourselves in the office, we will have it on the wall in the office, which is okay to do too. So let's assume that somebody says, well, we didn't do it, blah, blah, blah. Then the next fine could be a heavier fine, which could be $200, $300, $400. And so they're going to be levying fines. They could even take away your carnet, your ID to operate a real estate business, okay? So I think over time, this is very good, okay? It is better to have some type of format of a regulation of floor so that everybody knows how to operate, how real estate should operate in Nicaragua. Here are some things that we are allowed to do. Commission has been established at 5 as the floor, but you can negotiate between the seller as well as the agent or the brokerage house what will be your commission. So that's one. Number two, and if you want to go below, you can, because really there is a floor, but it's really not a floor. It's people need to understand that everything is negotiable. Okay, the contract is negotiable. There has to be some very specific things in the contract. One, who's the seller, the seller's name, the seller's ID, property documentation, the solvencia, the tax ID, that it's registered, so the testament, so all the required documents. And they have to be in copy, okay, copy form. So we have been doing that now already for several years. So again, for us, it's really not that bad because we're already doing it. So we need, when we get the document signed by the seller, we in fact have to provide that document to our broker, and the broker signs it. So we as agents are no longer signing that agreement. Kind of similar to the US. However, in the US, an agent is allowed to sign it on behalf of the broker. I think over time in Nicaragua, they will change that. Now, that's my opinion, and it's just that my opinion. We as agents will also be required to take classes. We also will be required to be registered with the Money Laundering Institute here in Nicaragua, the WAF. We will also have to have several other documentations to support to MIFIC to show that we are up to date. Yeah, that's about it. Anybody can get into real estate as long as you have residency. So those that don't, just be aware that they're also making a requirement that we as agents, as brokers, notify MIFIC who are those agents that are operating without a license. So we're kind of like the watchdog, and which is good and bad. The good part is they want to make sure that everybody is playing on the same level field. The same level field is that you have to be registered, you have to pay taxes. Why did this come about? I think the biggest reason the license law came about is because, number one, people were not paying taxes on the commissions, on the transactions, etc. That was one. Number two, there was no orderly management of one of the biggest industries of Nicaragua as it relates to GDP, okay? So it's important because of money laundering, if you have a controlling entity that reviews everything, this might be better overall for the country. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of people saying that this is not good, it's not. But for us that have been in this industry, we believe that this, over the long term, is going to be a good mechanism to manage and control the real estate industry, its agents, its brokerage. And I think over time we will also see Catastro being part of this in the sense that they bring everything under one heading. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot more changes over the next few years. Hope that this video that we did today about MIFIC and the new law 1129, sorry, I almost said 7, but 1129 was worth it for you. If you have any questions or anything like that, I will link to the PDF of MiFIC so you can read it. MiFIC will also be putting a link on their website of all the agents that have been approved and the brokerage houses. They just approved approximately 47, 48 brokerage or brokers. And so now the agents are going to start coming in. It's a process. It takes time. Everybody is learning, including MiFIC. So patience. Thank you. If you have any questions, just drop a note and we will try to answer any and all that we have. Thank you.